Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today I'm joined by Oliver Ma, who is currently running for Lieutenant Governor of California. And Oliver, I know your time is really valuable as there's only 6 days until the vote, but I was super inspired by everything you've done, and I'm really excited to interview you today. So I truly appreciate you being here today. So, as you probably already know, a lot of young people in California are really care deeply about what's happening to their state, but they don't know how they can contribute, and they're also not sure whether their leaders are actually doing anything to help them. So, today I wanted to really focus our conversation on what role youth voices can play in shaping the future and how your position will directly impact young Californians. So, I really just have one simple question for you. Once elected, what will you do to help the youth of California?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Oliver. Thanks so much for having me on, Ashley. I am a civil rights lawyer and an immigrant running for California Lieutenant Governor. And over the course of my career, I've really seen that working people in our state, especially young people, are working harder and harder for less and less. I have a family friend who went to college in the 1950s or maybe in the 1960s. And I how long it would have taken him to work a minimum wage job in order to pay for a year's tuition of college. And we did the math together, and it would have taken him 2 weeks, 2 weeks to pay for a year's tuition. Today, that number is much higher, right? Today, working a minimum wage job, you would have to work maybe a year, 2 years to pay for 1 year's of tuition. Housing is another thing that has gotten vastly more expensive. Healthcare is something else that has gotten vastly more expensive. When I was born, the US life expectancy was 8 years longer than the Chinese life expectancy. And today that has flipped. Today, Chinese people live longer than the average American. And I think that is just it's so disheartening for the future of our country. So what I really want to do for California, for our young people as lieutenant governor, is to make sure we have an economy, we have a society that works for regular people, for young people, for working people, not the billionaires and not the corporations. I want to make sure young people can live in the California of our dreams, not work so hard, work 2 jobs, 3 jobs just to barely get by. And for me, the core of that is making sure housing, education, and healthcare are affordable for young people.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really well said and really great. Something I also wanted to talk about was with the current rise of AI technology, how do you think this will change the future for the youth? And what can California do to prepare young people for an AI-driven future while still protecting their jobs and privacy?
Yeah, I came into the AI world as a cautiously optimistic. I was excited to see what AI can do for us. But over the years, I've really become an AI hater. And this is the reason, right? There's so much investment, so much money going into AI, so much hype, so much attention. And we're told that AI is supposed to be transformative. It's supposed to transform our lives, make our lives so much better. Well, despite the probably trillions of dollars that have now been invested into I have not seen it lower the cost of housing. I have not seen it lower the cost of healthcare. What I have seen AI do is companies using AI algorithms to charge people the maximum amount they can afford to pay for things like healthcare and housing. What I have seen is the US government using AI to violate civil liberties, right? I work in immigrant defense. And when ICE shows up to a workplace and they're trying to catch people, they will pull out these heat seeking thermal drones that can detect body heat in order to find people. That is so scary to me. The government shouldn't have robots like this that can detect body heat and find people. I also have seen AI be used to replace thousands of young people from their jobs. I was grabbing dinner with my cousin 2 days ago. He was working in tech, and just recently he was laid off, even though he graduated from one of the best universities in the world with a degree in computer science. And so, what we've seen is really AI um, eat away at our liberties, at our civil rights. It's eaten away at our wallets and it's eaten away at our job prospects. And so, what I want to fight for is a California that works for young people and working people, not just for tech companies. And what that means for me is making sure that, number one, that California does not invest, does not help any company that contracts with ICE or that contracts with war companies or other companies that doesn't match California values. I also want to fight to make sure that people are not replaced. People are not able to have their jobs be replaced just because your company has implemented AI at the workplace. And then I also want to make sure that companies cannot use algorithms to charge people different prices based on what they're able to pay. So those are three things that I think we really need to do. But obviously, there's a lot more we need to do to make sure young people have a working economy for them.
Okay. Um, Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. And I love how like kind of righteous and moral your vision for California is, which will absolutely be really beneficial to the future California that the young people will inherit. And um, finally, I just have one more question. If you had to name like one specific reason why young Californians should specifically support your campaign, what would that be?
I think one of the biggest problems facing young people is political corruption, right? I've talked about how all of these things, education, healthcare, housing, have gotten vastly more expensive. The reason they have gotten more expensive over the last decades is because of corruption in our politics. So much of our taxpayer resources, so much of our public resources that used to be spent making our economy better, making sure people have opportunity, is now being given to companies that donate to our politicians. Israel is a great example. The country of Israel in 2024 gave $50 million to our politicians, to the politicians that support Israel. And now that these politicians are in office, they are giving billions of our taxpayer dollars back to Israel. Israeli citizens have free education. Israeli citizens have free healthcare. Here in the US, we don't have free education. We don't have free healthcare. So why are we giving billions and billions of dollars every single year to Israel when they're also being accused in the International Criminal Court of committing genocide, right? The reason it's happening is because our politicians don't serve us, they serve the special interests that donate to their political campaigns. My campaign is different. We don't take any money from corporations because we want to be driven by people and we want to represent people. Our special advantage in this race is that we've registered more than 5,000 volunteers. And this is more than every single one of my opponents have combined. This kind of grassroots energy, most of these are young people, and training these young people to be future leaders, training them to tell stories, training them to organize their communities. This kind of grassroots power building is what we're going to need to deliver the California of our dreams, where healthcare is affordable, where housing is affordable, where education is affordable. And so, if that sounds like the California of your dreams too, then I hope you and the people listening will support my campaign.
Mhm. Yeah. So once again, that was your vision and perspective is just really, really inspiring to me. And I want to thank you again for taking the time to speak with me today out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate the opportunity that I had to discuss the issues that matter to young Californians and to hear your views. To those of you who are watching right now, I want to see how many of you have actually registered to vote, and let's get Oliver into office together. Mm.
Thanks so much, Ashley. I appreciate the interview. I appreciate the questions. And I hope to fight shoulder by shoulder with you for the decades to come. And we can fight for a better California together.
Absolutely. It was such an honor to speak with you today, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Lily.